Hello and welcome. It's Ben Seckham here. Thank you so much for joining me in this session on 10 tools for total transformation. Now this session is all around shadow values with co-founder of Authentic Education, Benjamin J. Harvey. I first met Ben 9 months ago at an event, and prior to that event I listened to a webinar with him not long before, and his message completely changed my life when it made me realize that I really could do what I love doing every single day and get paid handsomely for it. In his pursuit to answer life's most intriguing questions, Benjamin J. Harvey studied the psychology of change for over 18 years with scientists, shamans, psychologists, skeptics, strategists, or anyone else that starts with an S or a silent P. Benjamin assists people across the globe to find their authentic message and turn it into a highly successful 6- and 7-figure business, and is regularly invited to give keynote presentations to organisations such as the Queensland Government and Youth Challenge Australia. Benjamin's unique style of change technologies brings total alignment between people's head, heart and hands, thought, feeling and action, through his complete understanding of shadow values. This process has been refined over 6,000 one-on-one coaching sessions and conducting over 100 workshops, achieving unusually rapid results and changes in people. Benjamin has successfully sold for and consulted with many companies including Adico, Centrelink, IBM, Apple, the Australian Taxation Office, St George, Qantas and AGL, to name a few. Now, this is going to be a little different to my other interviews and is going to be an interactive exercise with Ben and myself to find out a little bit more about my shadow values. So get yourself a glass of water, kick back, relax, and let's begin. So where did your journey begin helping people to live their love, Ben?
The thing for me is people often ask where you began and why you get into what you do, and I've definitely thought this question through a lot. And I think at the end of the day, you go into a journey like this because you want to transform your own life. I don't think I've ever met anybody that does this type of work, the sort of work that you and I do, without first having something in their life that they're looking to transform. And generally that's quite heavily linked to shadow values, and that's kind of why we're going to spend today doing an interactive process upon your suggestion, because I think your viewers can really get a lot of value out of the process. But the reason I got into it is because I had to look at different ways in which to transform my own life. I had a lot of learning struggles when I was a kid, and among other bits and pieces that happened throughout my childhood and my youth, and really just wanting to find myself some wholeness, some oneness, find myself some completion. So I went and studied everything I could to work out how to transform my life and the lives of others. So without boring you too much with all the details, I've just had an interesting life, as has everybody else out there on the planet. And I don't think my life was any tougher or any easier than anyone else's. Just for me, though, I really wanted to get some closure around some of the experiences I had as a kid. And so that inspired me to go out there and transform my life. And then as I started to work out ways to do that, I thought I may as well go and share this with other people and make a difference in their lives as well. So really, I think all our actions are born out of our desire to fulfill these shadow values. And as a result of discovering new and innovative ways to get rapid change in myself, I thought the next most logical thing to do would be to go out there and achieve that with other people and not just make a difference in my life, but in the lives of others. So, as I said, it's like anyone, we all get into these things because we want to transform, we want to find wholeness, we want to get balance in our lives. But I think it's a natural evolution to want to then go out there and serve others and share what you've learned. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Sounds good. And could you share a little bit, Ben, just before we get into the interactive part, what shadow values are or how you discovered shadow values?
Yeah, well, shadow values for me was a very, very long piece of research. I don't know why or how I got into it. I just remember waking up one day and saying to myself that I really want to stop lying to myself. I want to stop pretending I'm somebody I'm not. I want to get to the bottom of it. I actually want to know what drives every single action I do, and I want to have the courage to really look deep within myself and find out what is actually going on. And so all up, I'd say it's probably around 18 months worth of research, and when it really, like, when the rubber hit the road, it was probably around 9 months of researching every single day. And what I mean by researching was I just went on this mission to find out why I'm doing everything I'm doing. And so it was more of an internal research. I didn't bother researching it with any other people. I just wanted to find out in my own world what was going on. And the way I did this is for days on end, I would simply walk around asking myself, why am I doing this thing? This specific action right now, why am I doing it? Why did I get out of bed this morning and pick up this book? Or why did I walk down to these shops today? Or why did I get on this coaching call? Or why did I go and speak at this seminar? And every day of this process, I got more and more authentic every day. And I realized that to discover my shadow values, I had to follow kind of 4 very specific principles. I wasn't allowed to have any shame. I wasn't allowed to have any guilt. I wasn't allowed to judge myself in any way, shape, or form. And I wasn't allowed to succumb to fear. So I kind of followed those 4 principles. And I definitely recommend that your listeners today write those down somewhere. So no shame, no guilt, no fear, and no judgment. Because you're not ever going to find your shadow if any of those 4 are present. Because your shadow is this concept that I was first exposed to when I was studying shamanic practice years ago. And shamanic practice is an ancient type of, I guess, healing methodology and a way of living and a way of communicating with yourself and others, and involves spirits and mystics and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. But I got into it because I wanted to find a way to ground myself and transform. And so they spoke about this thing called the shadow. And your shadow is this element of yourself that you deny exists. It's this element of yourself that is responsible for all the things you don't like about yourself, but you often pretend it's not there. And this shadow is this thing that's very hard to catch, because every time you shine light on a shadow, the shadow vanishes. And so you're looking for your shadow with the light side of yourself, the golden side of yourself, this side of yourself that's all bright. And so every time you turn to stare at your shadow, you can't see it, so you actually pretend it's not there. Now, unfortunately, what I discovered is that the people I loved the most were the ones who got the most of my shadow, and the people that I'd never met before were the ones who got the most of my golden side, so to speak. So this shadow presented itself, for sure, but it did it behind closed doors, and it took a lot of time to stalk it. So in shamanic terms, we learned how to stalk our shadow, how to sneak up on it, how to catch it out. So when you're getting frustrated and angry at something, you have to catch it. What's going on there? Or when you're doing something that you're not proud of and that you're potentially going to feel a bit ashamed of later, you've got to catch it out. Or when you're talking to a loved one in a certain way that you wouldn't want your friends to see you talking to your loved one, that's all got to do with your shadow. And I often joke about this concept that if we set up a video camera in your house and streamed it live over YouTube, everything you'd want to edit out of that video is your shadow. So that's kind of what the shadow was. So I kept stalking it, and I kept looking, and I kept looking, and I kept looking. And months went by, and I started to play this trumping game. So as I got more and more authentic, I started to play this trumping game. And what I mean by that is I asked myself what sort of activities would trump other activities. So in cards, when you're playing cards and you trump a card, it just basically means you've got a better card to play, and it's normally a winning card. So I thought to myself, well, okay, I've got this interview with Ben today. Well, what would have to happen to trump this interview? So why would I quit this interview with you and do something else? And so I started to ask myself, well, what are all the activities that could pop up that would make me cancel this interview? And so I started to think, well, if my mum came to town and she really wanted to do something today, and it was the only time she could get to town for a couple of months, then unfortunately, Ben, no offense to you, I'd probably cancel the interview because I would see that hanging out with my mum would be more meaningful for me today. Or maybe I had the opportunity to go see Wayne Dyer speak live today. Someone gave me a free ticket, go see Wayne. Well, I'd probably cancel this interview. And so I started to look at ways, what would I trump? And then I kept trumping and trumping. I played this for days and days and days and days and days. In fact, months. And then I finally started to get a lot finer and a lot more authentic and a lot more real. And I ended up with a series of things that I would do. And this is definitely something I'd recommend your listeners do after this phone call, is just begin by playing the trump game. So what's an activity that you would cancel for another activity? And you just keep playing that until you get to an activity that you couldn't cancel for any other activity. And that activity you'll find is highest on your values. And values are really like a hierarchy of activities or a hierarchy of things that we deem to be most important in our world. And they're the things that drive every action we do. So once I'd played this trumping game, I ended up with 6 values, 6 very nice. Have you ever done your values, Ben?
Yeah, I have a little bit, not completely though. I have an idea of the golden values, but not so clear on the shadow values yet.
Yeah, got it. So I ended up with a whole bunch of golden values, and they were service, wisdom, oneness, love, laughter, and authenticity. So they're the 6 values I ended up with. Now, they sound very fluffy, and they sound very golden, and they're the sort of values that you'd want to share with your friends. They're the sort of values you'd want to share with your audiences, and they're the sort of values you'd want to stand up in front of the world and say, this is what I stand for. But there's something wrong with those values, service, wisdom, oneness, love, laughter, and authenticity. And what was wrong with them was they were only one side. They were way too positive. They were way too fluffy. So I looked into each of these values and I said, well, wait a minute. What's behind the value? What's driving this value? Why is service so important to me? And this was another couple of months of getting really authentic. Why do I get driven by service? Is it because I read it in a book? Is it because I was told it when I was on my spiritual journey? Is it because, people in the movies say it? Is it because it sounds good? Is it because it gets me more business? Is it because it makes my parents proud? I started to really look down as to why is service number one? And as I looked at what was driving my value of service, I started to find that there was something underneath the surface. There was a shadow. There was something driving that. There was something there that was really making my value of service become number one. And as I delved deeper and deeper, I ended up with 7 shadow values. So things that drive your golden values, things that actually are meaningful that you want most fulfilled in your life. Now, there aren't only 7 shadow values. I'm sure there's hundreds of them. But I went and tested this theory on about 300 clients after I'd done the research. And I found time and time again that we kept ending up with the same 7. Now, there could be more. I'm definitely open to that. But what I found in my own way, shape, and form was that there are 7 core shadow values. So I discovered that the 7 core shadow values, and your listeners might want to write these down. The 7 core shadow values were attention, belonging, control. So attention, belonging, control, sexuality, superiority, money, and validation. And so the need for attention, the need to belong, the need to have control of things, the need to express ourselves sexually, the need to be superior or righteous or right in what we're doing, the need to be validated, and the need to have money. These were the 7 kind of shadow values that were driving all behaviors. And so as I dug deeper and deeper, and this is really where your listeners are going to have to abide by the 4 rules, and you're going to have to do it as well, Ben, because we're about to elicit yours. And the 4 rules are no shame, no guilt, no judgment, and no fear. Are you willing to abide by those rules, Ben?
I am.
You are, mate? Nice.
I'm game.
So, what was that?
I'm game.
You're game? Nice. And so as I really dug deep and followed into this, I started to get more and more authentic, and I just kept digging deeper and deeper. And so for me, what I ended up with was I looked at service. Well, why do I like serving people? Well, I found out that inside myself, thanks to my learning issues and my ability not to read and my ability not to study the same way, I like to know that I'm right. So I have a complex of superiority. where I like to know that I'm actually correct in what I'm saying. So I found that I like to serve people because when I'm serving people, I'm able to express my knowledge, and I'm able to get, validated as well on some level for the knowledge that I have. I looked in at wisdom and education and teaching, and again, same thing. I found that I liked to be right. I like to have this feeling of being right. I get a good buzz from it. And again, if I'm going to educate someone, if I don't have superior knowledge to them, then my education is a bit of a waste of time, because you rarely go to somebody for inferior knowledge. You go to people who have superior knowledge in order for you to learn and evolve and expand. And I went through each one of them, and I started to see that a lot of them were linked to the need for having control and the desire to be superior, and also the desire for attention. So as I worked and I worked and I worked, I realized that my top 3 shadow values were superiority, control, and attention. Because as I looked at what I was doing, I taught a lot, I teach a lot all the time, I'm always on stage, I'm always giving some course somewhere in Australia or around the world. And I realized that in order for me to teach people, or for order for me to help people overcome beliefs around relationships, or beliefs around money, or beliefs around fitness, or whatever it is, I have to take control of their beliefs just for a moment. I've got to take control long enough to shift their beliefs from one to the other. So if I'm no good at taking control of someone, then there's no way I'm going to be any good at transforming people's lives, because people can't experience freedom without first taking control. And I also learned that I'm not going to be a very good educator if I'm not superior in my level of thinking around the topic that I'm teaching, because my students won't get any value unless I continue to strive to be superior through learning the latest and the greatest cutting edges of anything that I'm presenting. And finally, I realized that if I didn't like attention, then there's no way I'd go on stage and share my message. So I really had to be somebody who likes attention, because if I didn't like attention, then I'd only present on stage maybe once or twice before I didn't enjoy it anymore. So I found that by loving the concept of being superior and right, it forced me to educate myself daily, which means I can share more knowledge with the people that I serve. I learned that by being willing to take control and honoring the fact that I like to take control, I'm much better at inspiring and influencing people to live more magnificent lives. And I also learned that by having a desire for attention, I am able to present on stages and in front of rooms full of people and on the internet. And so all in all, it's a two-way street. There's two sides to the same coin every single time. So I definitely worked out that my shadow drives my golden values and vice versa, and that thanks to me owning my shadow, I'm able to serve thousands of people a year. And it really did take an ability to dig deep inside myself and really own all of myself, not just the half that I like, but own all of myself. And now that I've really come to understanding of who I am and what drives me without shame and guilt, you know, if you were to come up to me and say, Ben, you're just a superiority, attention-seeking control freak, I'd probably take you out for lunch, because, you know me better than my mum does. So I don't have anything to defend anymore. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not ashamed of anything. I don't have any guilt around anything. I've got nothing to defend, because I've found after doing 300 shadow values elicitations that every single human has these. You can't escape them. So if everybody's got them, then we soon realize that every action we do is both altruistic and narcissistic in its nature. It's both for others and it's also for ourselves. We also realize that every action we do is done in order to, on some level, manipulate other people to get what we want, but also other people get what they want through our actions. So you can't do any action on this planet without having both sides present, the shadow and the golden side. And once people can really understand this and really own this concept, then it's really a liberating place to be in, because people need to wake up to the fact that even if you're out there serving all day long, giving of yourself and asking nothing in return, well, you're still getting something in return. You're getting a feeling of giving of yourself. And so there's always a fair exchange taking place on those systems. So that's really why I discovered shadow values. That's why I went into it. That's the research that I I worked through for months and months and months. And I really feel, from all the people that I've ever shared this with, I really see an incredible liberation happen when they own all of themselves, when they really get at the deepest level that it's all them. It's one of the most liberating things that they can experience, for sure.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ben. It sounds really interesting.
It's a pleasure.
So would you like to test what my shadow values are, or go through the exercises with me?
Let's get into it. Well, typically, what would happen in the standard values elicitation is you'd get questions like, what's most important to you in a relationship? And people would answer. Actually, let's try it. Let's do a standard elicitation, and then we'll do a shadow values one. So what is most important to you in a relationship?
To be honest, the first one that came to my mind was sex.
Yep. Got it.
But as well as that, attention. So.
Okay, so getting attention from people and obviously having that intimate connection, which is pretty standard for men to think along those terms. All right, and inside relationships, what sort of things are meaningful to you? What else is important to you in a relationship?
Having like a similar goal together and spending time together, so quality time together. Having a lot of fun doing different spontaneous or even planned fun activities. Got it.
So what would happen in a standard, neuro-linguistic programming or an NLP values elicitation is they'd go down this path. What's important to you? What's important to you? And that's one way of working out what's important in a relationship. But then we've got to realize that relationship fits into a bigger wheel of life. So relationship is really only one sector. So we could ask you all the questions in the world about relationships, and you could answer them all very well. But if we then step back and go up a chunk and we ask you more about the sectors of life, we might find that relationships don't even show up. So, for example, when I do a higher level chunk of values elicitation on myself, out of maybe asking myself 40 questions, I think I'd only answer twice with a relationships-orientated answer. For me, most of my answers show up in the form of answering about authentic education and answering about courses that I'm running. So at a higher level chunk, when I go out of relationships, I find that relationships doesn't really play a big part in my world, even though I'm in a relationship and I've been in one for many, many, many years. In fact, I've always found myself in a relationship, and a long-term one at that. I don't consider them important because I don't really have a big charge around them. I don't have a great need or a void around that. So these are where I'm finding there are some fundamental flaws. If I look at just relationships with you, we could answer the questions all day long. But if we go to a higher chunk, we may find that relationships aren't even that important, and you're more interested in growing your business, or you're more interested in helping other people with their relationships. And so that's kind of where it falls apart. So shadow values is a very, very efficient and rapid process to find out really what's driving you, and then trying to link things to that, because these shadow values are linked in. So the questions that I prefer to ask are, can you remember the last time you got frustrated? Like, when was the last time you really got a little bit frustrated or even downright pissed off? Yeah, so tell me a bit about that.
The last time I think I can remember was yesterday when my daughter was crying, and it was probably 10 or 15 minutes of solid, hardcore crying, and I got frustrated with the noise and the intensity of that.
Got it. So hardcore crying, frustrated with the noise and intensity of that. And tell me a little bit more. So how did you respond to it? What took place?
Yeah, normally I just sort of let it go and kind of back away. But yesterday I had a pretty full-on day, and I just said, like, not in a super loud voice, but I said, "Shut up," when she was, crying continuously. And then I sort of got angry at myself for even saying that. And then just walked away and kind of let it settle down.
Okay, and I thank you for your honesty with that. So you got angry at yourself afterwards. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, I normally very patient and see myself as a patient, loving person, but I got angry at myself for venting the frustration that wasn't really. I don't know. It seemed like I was doing something that wasn't necessary, so I was doing something that I didn't need to say that. I could have just walked away. And I got angry at myself that I didn't take the time to step away rather than react after a few minutes.
Okay. And you also just said something interesting. You said the way I see myself is a peaceful, loving person. So when your shadow came out, you even got more annoyed because you kind of became aware of a side of yourself that you don't see yourself as. Because very rarely do we ever sit down and visualize our shadow. We don't sit down and see ourselves getting annoyed. We don't sit down and tend to visualize practicing getting frustrated at things. We tend to do our best to pretend that it's not there at all. So when it does come out and the image that we hold of ourselves doesn't match the action that just took place, then quite often we get angry at that because the shadow is really there to awaken you. But the reason we're getting angry is because we're trying to hide from it so much. It, I guess, collapses an internal vision we have of ourselves. All right, so we got that one. Give me some other. What's the next most recent time you got frustrated you can think about?
When my editing program wasn't working the way I wanted it to, and it was taking me much longer than I thought to figure out how to get the microphone to work. So that made me quite annoyed because it seemed like it wasn't necessary to spend so much time on such a seemingly easy thing to do.
Got it. And so it was editing software, trying to work out how to put a microphone so it connected up. Is that right?
Yeah, no, it's connected. It was just not picking up the voice the way that I wanted it to. Like, it wasn't picking up my, like when I was checking the recordings, it was only picking up the other person's voice, not my voice. And then I'd figured it out before, and then when I was trying to do it again, it didn't seem to be doing what I wanted it to, so I got frustrated that it was taking me such a long period of time for such a small thing.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, we've got two examples now that we can work with. We'll work with the last one first. And so in this moment where the microphone is not working, because what happens is your shadow expresses itself through frustration, through strong charges. And generally, our shadow will present itself when it is not being fulfilled. So when it's not getting what it wants, it will identify to you that it's not getting what it wants through the form of a charge, like a intensified energy that often turns into frustration, resentment, anger, those sorts of things. So when we look at this software debacle, so to speak, tell me in that exact moment, what were you not getting or what was missing? So in that exact moment when you're getting frustrated about the software, what were you not getting? What did you not have, or what was missing?
Could you explain that a little bit more? What do you mean in terms of the software or in myself? Or
in yourself. So the software is not working. So in that moment when it's not working for you, what do you feel you're not getting? Like what's not happening there?
It's sort of, generally I'm not a massively technical person in terms of people my age, and it just frustrated me that I've had to do that similar kind of thing with the software a few times, and it just frustrated me that I had to do the same thing, and that my computer was not working the way that I wanted it to, that I wasn't technically savvy enough to figure it out faster, that I wanted to go and do something else, that I was exhausted, all these emotions, tiredness and frustration.
All right, so what do you feel that was highlighting? Because quite often the shadow is an image that we don't hold of ourselves. So what do you feel in that moment? What images were being found out? So what did you think you were, and then what did this software prove that you weren't? So this issue. So
I thought I was. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, I thought I was more technically savvy than I am, or than I thought that I was, and frustrated me. And I think that I am getting better with it, but it made me see that kind of technology, I suppose, or a lot of different software programs can annoy me if it takes longer than I like it to. I like things to happen fast with technology. I don't like to have to wait a long time, even though in offline things or off the computer, I'm pretty patient. So I suppose it was showing me that I'm not as patient as I think I am in some things.
Got it. And in that moment, what did you no longer have? What did you lost?
I lost my control. Yeah, I lost my control and felt like I lost the ability to control what was happening or how quickly I could do the next task that I wanted to do.
Got it. Okay. So you've mentioned a few things. You're acknowledging that you were probably not as smart as you thought you were around the software, and that highlighted it. So if I was to look through that, normally I don't sort of prompt words with people, but if I was to sit back and analyze that, I'd say, well, it looks like your need to be right or your superiority in that level of topic was challenged. And so that brings up a charge. But also you've just mentioned that you lost control. So it sounds like in that moment, the level of superiority you thought you had was found out to not be true, and also you lost control of the situation, so you got charged. But if we now sort of step into that with your baby recently, tell me in that moment what was missing, what didn't you have, what was not being fulfilled, or what did you feel you'd lost?
I think in that instance it felt like I lost. What was it? I suppose I lost the ability to control her, I suppose, or to soothe her, or to control myself as well. I think that I feel like I can control myself fairly well, and that I lost that ability to control myself and how I usually respond to that situation. And that superiority over her, that had this belief that she is a toddler and that I'm an adult and that she should respect my ear capacity or my hearing capacity, or just my space. And yeah, that frustrated me that she was continuously crying and not responding to anything that we did.
Got it. So on some level you felt that the respect or something was not there for you, and you were the adult. And okay, so again we're seeing that it seems like it's a superiority and a control thing that keeps popping up with your shadow. And so these are the things that we start to look at. We start to look at, well, if these are the things that are most frustrating, then step number one is to become aware of what's going on. And if we kept going through experiences and whatnot, and when you get charged, maybe we'll find that control comes up a lot, and maybe we'll find that superiority comes up a lot. So for me, when I get in a car and I'm not driving it, I can't help but feel uncomfortable. And the reason I feel uncomfortable is because I don't have control of the vehicle, and I like to be in control of things. And so what I need to do in my own life was just first of all become aware. So if you become aware that you have a strong charge around needing to be in control, then you won't have to respond the way you used to, because awareness is really the thing that liberates people as the starting point. So as we discover that you like to have control when you're working your software, you like to have control when you're working with your family, you like to feel superior when you're thinking about your knowledge, and you like to be superior and the superior person in the room, then as you become more and more aware of that, next time someone challenges your control, rather than trying to maintain control, you can simply be aware that that's what you're attempting to do. So shadow values is most importantly about being aware of what's going on. Now, inside a relationship, tell me what frustrates you.
Being told what to do, or being told off for doing the wrong or the not so good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So being told what to do and being told off for doing the wrong or not so good thing. All right, so if we look at that as well, what we're going to find is both of those, again, are control, so being told what to do, so when someone else is trying to control you, and being told off for doing something wrong, well, that just simply highlights that you weren't right. And when someone highlights you weren't right, they're having a crack at your superiority, because the second you've been found out for not being 100% accurate in what you say and what you do, you lose elements of that superiority. And so again, it looks in all three circumstances, the two biggest values for you are that need for, that desire and need for control, and that desire and need to feel superior. Now, what does this actually mean? What do you do with that? Because people often say to me, well, Ben, how do I get rid of it? Well, the thing is you don't get rid of it because you've got a baby, so you would appreciate that a newborn baby contains all of these shadow values. They love control. They love attention. They love to belong. They absolutely love to be the most superior thing in the room at any given time. So they're born into you. So it's not about how do I get rid of them, because too many people in personal development are trying to get rid of things when the game is to integrate everything. So the game is not to get rid of anything, it's to make everything part of the one thing. So if I was you and I wanted to go out there and become successful in a certain thing, I would look for things that allow me to have even greater control and that inspire me to continue to pursue more superior levels of knowledge, more superior levels of awareness, more superior levels of information. And if I could find that type of business, I would definitely be successful. So what I mean by that is, if I was looking at your shadow values and just the brief amount of information that I know on you, I would say you will find a lot of fun and a lot of enjoyment from finding a great topic that you can share with the world that allows you the experience to be in control of the situation, so a business owner or an entrepreneur, and find a topic that you can be the most accurate about. And what I mean by that is, so you've chosen relationships potentially at this stage, so find a topic that you can learn about every day so that you never get caught out with any of the information that you're talking about. And I know this sounds a little bit different to what most people would be saying, but the fact is we need to link into our shadow values. We need to use them to our advantage. And you need to be driven by them. And if you actually have these already built in, then you may as well use them. And some of the things that I often do is I list write to link what I want to my shadow values. So, for example, if I wanted to grow this business that you're currently working on, I would write out 200 ways that growing this business will give me more control in my life, or 200 ways that growing this business will allow me to experience more superiority. And once we have no shame, no guilt, no judgment over writing lists like this, then we can really move forward. I once worked with a lady who had an incredible control complex. Like, if she wasn't in control, she was literally going crazy. And so she wanted to find a partner, and she hadn't had a partner for many, many, many years. She wanted to be in a relationship, she just couldn't get in one. And the reason she couldn't get in one is because she had such control complex, or whatever you want to call it. So her shadow value of control was so strong that she was afraid that if she got in a relationship, she would lose control of her life. So all I did was I got her to write out 200 reasons why getting in a relationship will give her even more control, as in give her someone else to control. Now, she didn't feel that comfortable beginning the list, but as she started to write through, she started to realize that having a partner meant there was something else she could control. There was other elements of diversity that she could get control of. She found all these things that she could now control even more as a result of having a partner. Whereas before, she viewed a partnership as losing control and having less control. The second her brain acknowledged that getting a partner gives her more control, she found a partner straight away. And I'm talking, this is a long-term lady. She's over 10 years without a partner. We did the process, and it took about 2 weeks for her to find a partner and start dating. So our shadow values will create just as much as they destroy us, and they will push away opportunities if they feel threatened. So, for example, if you want to grow your business, Ben, but somewhere in your nervous system you feel that growing your business will give you less control, then you'll just keep your business at the same level because you don't want to lose the fulfillment of control and superiority. So if I gave you some really challenging tasks that allowed you to lose superiority in the eyes of the people around you, you would avoid those tasks because you want to make sure you're always fulfilling those shadow values. So as I said, the main thing is first to work them out, find out what frustrates you, find out what bothers you, find out, playing the trump game, what sort of things you would trump for other activities. And then once you've found all of that, go deep inside and say, really, why do I do this? Then you'll find out that there are certain reasons. As we've discovered, it's superiority control so far with you. Then all you've got to do is link any of your goals to that. So say you want a brand new car, great. How many ways does buying a new car give me more control? Or how many ways does buying a new car allow me to feel more superior. And if you start to do this, you'll find that you have an incredible ability to create amazing things using both your shadow and your golden side. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I was reflecting on it, and it does make a lot of sense. I can actually see why a lot of things have happened in my life in terms of just reflecting on different circumstances in my life, what has pushed things away because it hasn't enabled me to have control or superiority, and that makes sense that would not naturally fall away because it's not of interest to me because I'm not in control or having a position of superiority.
Yeah, it really is fascinating how much it governs everything we do in life. And it's the opportunities we move into and the opportunities we move away from are all governed by these perceptions of whether or not these shadow values will get fulfilled more or less. And because your nervous system links survival to the fulfillment of these shadow values, it will only move towards things that it deems will give you a higher level of fulfillment around these values. And so this is why values linking is so important, because you will find, as you reflect more and more, that every single thing you've ever done has been to move towards higher levels of fulfillment of this stuff. And anything that feels challenging to that, you're going to move away from. And this is a really powerful point to get in.
Yeah, I was just thinking about another example that I could explain just quickly.
Yeah.
In terms of sport, I did a lot of sport at school and a lot of athletics, competitive athletics, and I suppose even though I didn't realise it at the time, but the whole reason for wanting to win races and go to different events was to have that feeling of superiority over other people and to be able to say, oh yeah, I'm this type of athlete or this type of, this level of person, and be higher up than people that are lower level or less.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's just one example, but there's others that I can see as well. It makes a lot of sense. I can really see that.
Yeah, and then the thing is, your listeners need to understand the word superiority is not a dirty word. We made it a dirty word. We are conditioned with these shadow values. They're built into us, because if we don't want to naturally want to belong to something, then we won't be able to feed ourselves, because if we find ourselves alone in this crazy world and we can't hunt as a team and we can't feed ourselves correctly, well, that's a survival problem. So without wanting to belong, we can't connect properly. Without having attention or the desire for attention, no one will ever be able to appreciate us. So we need appreciation to survive, and we can only get that. You can only appreciate that which you have your attention on. And control, everyone strives for freedom, but we can't have any freedom in our life without control. So all these things they're built into us, and superiority is built into us to ensure that we never stop evolving. Because if we took superiority away from people, we would no longer have a drive to want to be better than ourselves, predominantly, and then on some level, be better than what's out there in the market in order to keep moving forward. So without having this superiority thing built into our biology, as a species, we would never evolve. So people need to move beyond the fact that it's not a dirty word. It's part of our genetic makeup. And then once we use that to our advantage, we can start creating incredible things out there in the world. And it's just a matter of really being honest with yourself and acknowledging that there's two sides to every coin, and really start looking deep into your shadow if you want to find what drives you and exactly how to create the life you want to live.
Yeah, that's it. It sounds like when you did that with me, I was totally, in the moment I wasn't really seeing it, but after I sort of reflected on it for a little bit, I could actually see that's how that works. That's why that happened. That's why this will happen. It really does really resonate. Yeah, it does resonate that it works.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. So do you have anything else you'd like to share, Ben? Or
I think the main one for the listeners is just to be willing to look deep inside themselves, be willing to really be authentic, and just follow those 4 rules. No shame, no guilt, no judgment, and no fear. Because you never, ever will be able to find your shadow if you're judging your answers, If you're ashamed of the fact that you like to win races because you want to feel superior, you'll never find it. So shame and guilt and judgment and fear will prevent you from ever truly owning your shadow. But the most important thing to realize is every single human being has it. Every one of us have these values, so you're not alone. Everybody has them. They're built into us for survival purposes. But the thing is, you can use them to create phenomenal successes in your life. And this is really where you have to start to acknowledge that there are easier ways of doing things. There's a more systemized approach to life. And running away from the shadow is not the answer. You've got to step into it, and then you get really all your power. Because if you're only pretending you're half of who you are, you're only ever going to be able to access half of your power. But if you own all of who you are, and you liberate yourself, and you truly appreciate every element of what you are, then you really become unstoppable in your dreams, and you're able to go out there and live your love and serve people and have an incredible life.
Definitely, yeah. And what are you working on at the moment, Ben, and whereabouts can you be found?
We've always got stuff working. We've just opened up an academy here in Sydney, right in the centre of the city on Castlereagh Street. So we're sort of putting in a lot of hours there, setting up a school and running programs out of that place. We've got some new projects coming up soon. We're about to start launching a brand new accelerated coaching certification program where we're helping people work with people's shadows, values, and use some techniques that we've created along the years. And we're also always a lot of stuff online. In fact, your listeners, if they want to jump online, can go to authenticeducation.com.au/shadow, and they can actually download a free copy of a workbook that they can actually do their shadow values in. And there's an audio program where I'm working with a lady, and you actually hear her shame and guilt coming up, and then it goes, and it comes up, and it goes. You're actually quite straightforward today, which is wonderful. In this audio, you can actually hear her battling with her own shame and guilt and trying to suck words back into her mouth and stuff. So they can get that, authenticeducation.com.au/shadow. But just checking out our website, we're always presenting around Australia quite a lot. So, and we've got plenty of free courses that they can come along to and experience our style of teaching. So we'd be glad to have anyone in your community come along and learn some stuff that may improve their life.
Great. Thanks a lot, Ben, for talking with us today.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been good. And I'm Ben Seckham, and you've been listening to 10 Tools for Total Transformation online workshop. How to end the drama, rekindle your love, and experience happiness today. If you want to find out more about Benjamin J. Harvey's work and check out your own shadow values, like you said, you can check out his website at authenticeducation.com.au/shadow. Thanks again for listening in today, and goodbye for now.